Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Humph tomato. And I've grown this tomato several times in the past. I think I did a review on it. Don't remember at this point, but I figured I'd revisit this tomato and give it a go again this year. And the tomato plant did pretty good for the most part, but the late blight really came in strong and hard, along with the early blight, and just wiped my crop out in about 2 weeks, just like that. It was pretty much blew it out. Now, I still managed to get quite a few tomatoes, but not as much as I would have hoped, simply because of the plants getting wiped out. So let me give you a look at the tomato. This is quite a fascinating tomato, quite frankly. Get you up close. It's a beautiful tomato. You can see it's got this beautiful sunset orange color to it, with these really green shoulders like this. And it's just a fascinating looking tomato. I've been intrigued with this tomato ever since I tried it and growed it out. Just a fascinating looking tomato. Absolutely 100% weird looking. But that's what I like in tomatoes. Just this color combination is very, very bizarre looking. It's almost like a weird kind of an umberish looking color. And here's the center of it. You can see it's got a lime green inside, very much like that. And you can see that all the seeds are attached to the rind. That's a good sign. That means the flower is obviously fully pollinated. Here's the bottom half of it. Okay. Give you a look at one of the others. I'm going to do a couple photos on these other tomatoes before I gut them and cut them. Okay, this is more of a typical shape that you will see off this plant, but this is also a very typical shape that you see from it. Is a very beefsteak-like tomato. Now, these can get quite large. I've gotten these as big as 2 pounds off of these plants. And here's another one. They can get really big. In fact, I got a couple of big ones on there now, probably close to 1 pound. This is definitely, I'd say this one's probably very close to 1 pound, if not over 1 pound. It's got some weight on it, this thing. Alright, so let's take a look. Let's do a bricks on this, actually. Let's do a bricks. Very juicy, very, very juicy. A lot of water in this thing. That's a good sign. I don't like dry tomatoes. 5 on the money. That's what the brick says. So that's been a pretty typical number this year. Again, I didn't add any lime or anything to the soil this year. So my numbers are going to be a little on the lower side. But I was hoping that the soil in the ground would give it the mineral content it needs to kind of bring it up a little. But you really need to add that lime to bring up that sugar level inside the tomatoes, if that's what it is you're looking to do. So maybe next year we'll focus on that. This year I was just wanting to do an experiment to see how my plants were going to do outside this year. And that's mainly what it was, and how they were going to do in the soil that I was growing them in. Because I was growing in 100% strictly compost that was made from the wood chips. So I wanted to see how it was going to do in that without influencing the plant in any way of other stuff that I add to the soil. Because, yeah, that's going to make it grow better. But now I don't know if the soil that I made was any good. So I wanted to know what my soil was going to do this year. I'm quite pleased and quite impressed, actually. So my soil was really, really good. But next year we need to sweeten these tomatoes a little. And I think I'm going to add the lime. So here's a wedge. Let's give that a go. Sweetness was on the low side. Sweetness was below 20. I'd probably say sweetness was probably around an 18. The tanginess was really up there. It had some of a, and I don't often say this with my tomato reviews, but it definitely had a somewhat of a tart type flavor. A tarty meaning almost lemony type tart. When you eat lemon, your mouth wants to pucker. This almost had a little bit of tardiness to it. That might be a little bit because I had to pick the tomatoes early. So maybe it's not 100% fully ripe, but it did have a little tarty flavor, and I think it's probably because I pick these tomatoes pretty much green, as you can see here. You're picking them like this, you're not going to get the best taste out of your tomatoes. Let me take another bite off of this. You look at that. Okay, so again, if we're going to put numbers on the sweet and tangy, the sweet part of it, I'd probably say was around 18 to 20%. The tangy part was probably 28% on the tangy. It's not overwhelming, but it's a lot higher than the sweetness, so you can really pick up on that tanginess. Now, let's talk about the tomato aftertaste. I'm really starting to focus on pointing out that tomato aftertaste now, because ultimately, in the end, if you're going to use it for any kind of cooking, salsas or sauces or hot sauces, anything like that, if you're going to be using tomato for anything like that, what you really need to focus on is what kind of an aftertaste is that tomato going to leave in your mouth, because it's either going to make you disgusted or it's going to draw you back in for more. And so, as a cook, you kind of want to draw your customers back in for more. You don't want them to be disgusted and or not be affected. You want them to come back for another bite. And so I'm really starting to focus on that aftertaste. This tomato has a very good aftertaste, and it does linger around long after you eat it. But the tangy and the sweet part and all that first effect you get when you first eat it, it's really on the mild side. It's mostly thing that you get when you eat that in the beginning. You're mostly getting like a tanginess from it. And you know, you get a little tomato flavor, then it's moist at the same time, so it's watery, and you're getting a little bit of sweetness. You get all that effect when you first eat it. The tangy part is more pronounced than all the other aspects of it. So when you first eat it, you're going to get a real pronounced part of the tangy. After it mellows in your mouth a little bit, it goes to the back of the tongue where that flavor now resonates in your mouth for a while. That's the part that I really focus on. This tomato has a very good effect, aftertaste effect in your mouth, and it does want to draw you back in for more, even though the initial part may have been a little more tangy than you might like. Keep in mind, if you do plan on making sauces with this, most of this stuff goes out the window, because when you make sauces, the flavors really infuse a lot, and you're going to lose a lot of that when you're eating it with the sauce. When you make sauce with it, you lose that. In fact, you could take your sweetest tomatoes, make a pot of sauce out of it, you would never even know there was sweetness in it. It changes over to tomato sauce when it changes. What doesn't change is the way the tomato delivers that flavor to the back of your tongue. And as you're eating your spaghetti or your lasagna and you're eating that tomato sauce with it, you're either going to want to go for more or you're going to want to go for less. And a good sauce makes you want to finish your plate. You don't know that it's doing that, but that's how your tongue works when you're making tomato sauces. So I really want to focus a little more on that. But this is a great tomato to grow. It's generally a pretty good producer. I mean, I got quite a few tomatoes this year off it. Unfortunately, my plants died early, and you could see a lot of them are coming off small. There are still tomatoes on the plant outside, so I still got to pick some more. But the plant is pretty much on its way out. It's going to die. So I should pick them now and get them out. I just want them to ripen in the sunlight a little more. But you will end up with tomatoes like this on a regular basis. Nice, thick beefsteak tomatoes, really crazy looking. I mean, look at that. Crazy look. That is just insane. Look at that. Look at that coloring effect on there. Tell me that's not absolutely insane. Look at it, isn't that beautiful? You probably can't see it, but the green and yellow striping really is bizarre looking on this tomato. So anyway, that's really about it for the Humph tomato. I don't know if it has any other names. If it does, I'll put them down in the description below. And any information I can find on the Humph tomato, I will put in the description. You can look that info up, and there will be seeds available for this on my site. In fact, I think I do have seeds available now on my site for this, because I've already grown this in the past, so I do have seeds. But that's about it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.